Muy bien, chicos, 12.1, page 394. Vamos a hablar del presente de subjuntivo, present subjunctive with querer, recomendar, and other verbs of volition. Here, doctora, ¿me voy a curar pronto? Sí, muy pronto. Va a estar bien. No quiero que se preocupe. We're going to just read this first conversation, just to save time. The subjunctive is here. No quiero que se preocupe. Preocupe. That's the subjunctive. Querer and recomendar. To want and to recommend. Recommend, sorry. Vamos abajo. Let's see. Letter A. In grammar 11.3, you learn the verb forms for polite commands, such as hable, coma, and abre el libro. Speakers might also use the softened command, such as I want you to, using verbs such as aconsejar, querer, recomendar, and sugerir, which expresses desire. This structure is used to express what one person wants another to do. My parents want me to. Our professor suggests that we. That's when we use the subjunctive. For example, ¿qué quiere la enfermera? Quiere que mamá tome la medicina ahora mismo. Tome, subjunctive. If you notice, tome is the same conjugation as the formal command. Usted, tome la medicina. The only difference is that when we use a subjunctive, we need to use the link que, and normally there is another subject, a different person wanting someone else to do something. Like here, la enfermera, no? The nurse, subject number one, wants my mom to take the medicine. Nurse and mom, two different subjects. That's what happens normally, but not always. And I will show you an example in a few minutes. But yes, we need that link, the relative pronoun que. In other words, she wants mom to take her medicine right now. She wants that. This that in English is not mandatory. It is in Spanish. Quiere que. Another example. ¿Qué nos sugiere Jorge? What does Jorge suggest us or to do, right? Él nos sugiere que leamos sobre las clínicas venezolanas. He suggests that we read about the Venezuelan clinics. That. This is the that I'm talking about. This that is que, and we need to use it in Spanish. Here, in Spanish, the verb in the clause that following, quiero que, recomienda que, sugiere que, or aconsejo que, uses the same verb form as a command. Because these softened commands can be addressed to anyone, the endings of the verbs in the second clause change to reflect who should complete the action. Tomes, almuerce, beban, escuchemos. These verbs are conjugated in the present tense of what is called the subjunctive mood. Up to this point, you have conjugated verbs in the present and past tense in the indicative mood. But now you will learn this new mood, verbs in the present tense of the subjunctive mood. This is a new thing. Indicative, we have done present, past, but now we're going to talk about subjunctive. Okay. To make a pause, what is subjunctive? Normally, subjunctive are referred to actions that has not happened yet, and it might happen, they might happen or not. That's why it's subjunctive. No, it's facts that are not, events that haven't happened yet. Might happen or not. While indicative normally talks about things that are happening, happened for sure in the past, or will happen for sure in the future. That's the difference between these two moods, subjunctive and indicative. Here, quiero que vayamos al hospital a ver a mi primo. Quiero, I want, que, the link, vayamos, subjunctive. Quiero que te quedes allí con él hoy. Quiero que te quedes allí con él. I want you to stay with him today. Quiero que el médico nos diga cómo está mi primo. I want the doctor to tell us how my cousin is doing. You see? So we have, in this case, I want, we have the verb to want, we have the link que, and then we need to use the subjunctive in the second clause. The following table contains common verbs that Spanish speakers often use to express softened commands. Softened commands following querer que, sugerir, recomendar, aconsejar que. Quiere que el médico vaya a su casa. She wants the doctor to go to her house. Te sugiero que tomes aspirina si tienes fiebre. I suggest you take aspirin if you have fever. ¿Ok? Phrases o frases personales. Acá tenemos aconsejar que, esperar que, preferir que, querer que, recomendar que y sugerir que. Translations here. Examples. Jorge nos recomienda que hagamos, subjunctive, hagamos gárgaras. Jorge suggests that we gargle, sorry. Let's go to letter B. The usted and ustedes polite command forms are also the usted and ustedes present subjunctives forms. For AR verbs, the whole list of present subjunctive verbs ending is E, ES, imos, sorry, ACE, and N. It's the same as formal commands. Here, vamos a ver. Infinitive, hablar. Present indicative, habla. Subjunctive, hable. Él habla. Él hable. Present indicative. So here we're going to go to the third person singular. She, he, or usted. She, ella, habla. Present subjunctive, hable. Comer. Él come. Él coma. Example. Él come todos los días. Yo quiero que él coma todos los días. Escribir. María escribe una carta. Mi mamá quiere que María escriba una carta. Bien. Here. To conjugate verbs in the present subjunctive, you apply to all the verbs of form that you have learned in Grammatica 1103. The command, formal commands that we talked about already. It's the same thing. Hable, tú hables, yo coma, yo escriba. The same conjugation to get to the formal commands, you apply it here. Present subjunctive forms, polite singular commands formed with person/number endings. Here, acá tenemos regular ones. You go to the same conjugation of the yo form first, then you make that subjunctive. Conocer, yo conozco. Instead of O, make it A. Yo conozca. Mi mamá quiere que yo conozca a mis primos. Construir, construyo. But the subjunctive, construya. El ingeniero quiere que los trabajadores construyan un edificio muy alto. Decir, digo, in the yo form, but subjunctive, diga. Hacer, hago, subjunctive, haga. Nacer, nazca. Oír, oiga. Poner, ponga. Recoger, recoja. Salir, salga. Tener, tenga. Traducir, traduzca. Tener, traiga. Venir, venga. Y ver, vea. Bien. And here we have irregular subjunctive in the same way as we have irregular formal commands. We have the same list. Dar. Yo doy. Present subjunctive, de. Yo de. Mi mamá quiere que yo le dé un regalo a mi amigo. Bien, so the spelling is so different, so that's why are irregulars. Irregular stem in the present subjunctive. Estar, estoy, esté, subjunctive. Haber, haya, ir, vaya, saber, sepa, ser, sea. Okay, and letter D, we have the present subjunctive forms of stem changing verbs can be divided into three groups. Group 1. For all stem changes, ER and ER verbs, the pattern of the stem vowel change E to IE and O to UE in the present subjunctive is the same in the present subjunctive as what you learn for present indicative. All forms show the stem vowel change except for the nosotros and vosotros form, which do not show a stem vowel change. So if you remember, in other words, just to summarize this, the nosotros form doesn't have a stem change. Remember? For example, pienso, pensar, yo pienso, tú piensas, but nosotros pensamos in the indicative form. In the subjunctive, we're going to apply the same thing. Yo piense, tú pienses, but pensemos. Mi esposa quiere que yo piense en ella todo el tiempo. But mi mamá quiere que mis hermanos y yo pensemos en Dios a cada día, ¿no? A cada instante, for example. Bien. Volvemos, volver, volvemos in the indicative without stem change, and the same way subjunctive, there's no stem change. Volvamos. Okay? Here, the group number 2. Before going to that, use this section as a reference. Don't try to memorize all of them. That's a good advice. The stem changing IR verbs are a little different because all stem changing IR verbs do show stem vowel change in the nosotros form, present subjunctive forms. And that stem change will either be E to I or O to U. So for IR verbs whose stem change is E to I, such pedir, servir, and vestir, their present subjunctive form all do show the same change from E to I. Let's take a look. Indicative, pedir, pido, subjunctive, pida. We maintain the stem change. Even though in indicative, pedir, we don't change the stem, pedimos or pedís. In the subjunctive, yes, we do. Pidamos and pidáis. Another example, servir. Indicative, yo sirvo, sirves, sirve, nosotros and vosotros doesn't change, servimos and servís. But in the subjunctive, yes, we need to apply the stem change, including the nosotros and vosotros form. Sirva, sirvas, sirva, sirvamos, and sirváis. Bien, this is the explanation of these rules, and here we have the last rule or group number 3. Stem change IR verb, whose stem vowel change from E to IE, such sentirse and divertirse, show the E to IE change in all present subjunctive form except the nosotros forms, where the vowel change. As previously noted, the E to I is just the E to I, period. And similarly, the two IR verbs whose stem vowel change is from O to UE dormir, show that change in all present subjunctive except from the nosotros and vosotros. Okay, let's take a look at the chart. It's easier to just go see the difference. Sentirse, okay, sentirse. In the indicative, we have me siento, te sientes, se siente, nos sentimos. Indicative doesn't change in the nosotros form, sentimos or vosotros sentís. But here, we will have the subjunctive. Que me sienta, te sientas, se sienta, sintamos. You see, from E to I, sintamos and sintáis. Bien, so we maintain the stem change in the subjunctive. Dormir, duermo, indicative, duermes, duerme. No stem change in dormimos and dormís, but yes, in ellos duermen. Subjunctive, duerma, duermas, duerma, durmamos, only you, and so only, not UE, but you, durmáis. Here, in the subjunctive for sentirse, we don't use the IE, but only I, sintamos, sintáis. Same thing here, durmamos and durmáis. Bien, this is what this rule says. And I will see you guys in the next video. Gracias. Chao. Sorry.